Okay, so before we actually get into the video, I just wanted to remind everybody that I am doing a giveaway. I'm going to be giving away a bunch of car cleaning products from Vash, a bunch of ceramic coating from Avalon King. As soon as I reach 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to pick 2 of my subscribers, and they're each going to get a ton of car cleaning product from Vash and ceramic coating from Avalon King. All you got to do to enter is head over to freedomseatapparelco.com, pick yourself up a shirt and or a hat. Every shirt counts as 5 entries, every hat counts as 2, and use promo code TRIGGER at checkout. It'll save you 20%. I intended on doing a 5-year review when I got this. My 5-year anniversary was back in July. It's now the almost end of December, so we're gonna call this like my 5.5-year update review with the car and the pros and cons of owning an S197. Okay, so when I bought this car back in July of 2017, I wasn't intending on buying a 2012 GT500. I always had my eyes set on a 13 or 14 GT500, just like anybody else. I had, like I said before in the past, if you guys have watched any of my videos before, I owned a 2014 V6. Those do actually get a lot of hate because it's a V6, it's on a V8, yada yada yada, but it had quite a bit done to that car. It kept up and even gapped some 5.0s. So with everything it had to that car, I had that along with a new Edge. I had a 2000 GT new Edge. I traded both of those in for this. I saw it online, went to go take a look at it and see it, test drove it, but what I fell in love with was the condition of the car. It was brand new. Didn't have anything done to it whatsoever. An old person, I believe, or older person drove the car before me. No mods. Had just under 6,000 miles on it back in 2017 for a 2012. So I'm trying to think back what the first mod I did to the car. I want to say the first thing I did, just standard like everybody else did. I think I did a tune. I went with smaller pulley at the time. I think I did a 2.6 pulley. Got a tune through VMP on the factory blower that comes on the 2011 and 12s. Is significantly smaller than what comes factory here on the 13 14s. And even back in 2017, I had the idea of floating around in my head as, oh, I should probably start a YouTube channel. It would be awesome to film and document everything I do to the car. But like I said in this video right here, I'll post a card up to that. I took a lot of time in procrastinating and overthinking the process of if I should start a channel or not. And eventually, about 2 years ago, I finally did. So if it's something, like I said, you want to do, don't waste any time. If you want to start a channel, whether it's a car channel or whatever, just pick up a camera and start recording. But anyway, in regards to the car has, from then to now, if I would have kept the car stock, if I was just going to keep it as like a collector, if I was going to do a collector car, I would have got a 13 or a 14. But what I'm trying to get at is if I kept this car, and I didn't heavily modify it, or I guess to some people it's not technically heavily modified, but everything I've dumped into the car with the supercharger, the exhaust, the headers, so on and so forth, if I didn't do so much to it, I probably would have traded this car in for a 13 or a 14. But I made the car my own. I made it appeal and look similar to a 13 or 14 with the headlights, the upper and lower grille, the taillights, so on and so forth. I made it my own. I put so much time and effort, money, and so much invested into it. It's not worth at this point to sell for a 13 or a 14. I kind of talked about that in the past to get your guys' opinions if trying to keep the car or sell for a 13 or 14 GT500. And my opinion was, no, it's not worth, if you're in my type of situation and you have what I have or similar to what I have, is it worth to sell to get a 13 or a 14, depending on what you have done and what your power is and everything like that. In my opinion, unless you're trying to get the 13 or 14 GT500 and keep it completely stock, just for the collectability of it, but as soon as you start modifying it, put a bigger blower on it, this, that, so on and so forth, the collectability and the value of those down the road isn't going to be what much of us think it would be, because it's not stock, it's been modified. But regardless if you have a 10, 11, 12, even 07, 09, it's not worth, in my opinion, to sell for a 13 or a 14. Obviously, that all depends on what you have done to the car, how much time you have invested in the car, what kind of power the car is putting down. So the pros and cons when talking about an S197 compared to what is currently out there now with S550s and coming out here next year with S650s. With the technology and the quality and the interior and everything like that, in my opinion, when it comes to that stuff comparing, there's more cons. It's older technology, all right? You have a live axle. You feel every damn bump on the road. You have no damn backup camera. It's a 2012. Even in the 2014s, there was no backup camera on these. They had the technology back then. Why didn't they incorporate it until 2015? I don't know. You get no Apple CarPlay. Now, you can upgrade the factory screen to make it appear to look like a factory screen, and you could have that installed if you want the Apple CarPlay, the sync system, the GPS, all that stuff. You could purchase that, but they don't come with that, obviously, with the cars in from the 10s to the 14s don't have that. It's not as driver friendly. You don't have as many apps to play with in regards to just going from a 15 and up, track apps, so on and so forth. Now, obviously, 13, 14s had some track apps, but not compared to what they have offered on the S550s and going from the 18s to 22s, and now even with what we see now with S650s, you get the whole IMAX screen in the front. And with those two, they just released over the past couple days the horsepower on those. The GTs is 486 if you go with the performance exhaust, and then if you go with the base GT, you're going to get 480. I guess the performance exhaust makes a 6 horsepower a difference, which I think, in my opinion, is kind of stupid. And then you go to the Dark Horse. The Dark Horse, you're going from 486 to the 500 horsepower mark, and you do get significantly more torque with the Dark Horse. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but once I sit down and edit this, I'll put all that here. It's 500 horsepower. Can't remember what the torque is, but you're going from 486 horsepower to 500 horsepower. So that's a difference of 14 horsepower and probably $10,000 to $15,000 to go from a performance pack GT with the performance exhaust to a Dark Horse. Do I think it's worth to go to that? You do get more. You get the dual throttle bodies. You get some stuff out of the 2020 GT500s internally in the Dark Horse, but the price point for those cars aren't out yet. And I think the price point for the Dark Horse, you're going to probably look at $10,000 to $15,000 more than a performance pack GT. The performance pack GTs are probably going to be, I'm assuming, right around the $45,000 to $55,000 range. The Dark Horses, you're probably going to look at north of $60,000, and then you add the dealer markups, you're probably going to be closer to $70,000 out the door for a Dark Horse with 14 more horsepower. You know, also too, there's more cons when it comes to owning an S197. You don't have the active exhaust. You can't change the pitch of your exhaust if you're trying to leave the house early. You don't want to wake up or piss off your next door neighbor. You can't, turn it down. These are just, you get what you get. Now, obviously, I got aftermarket exhaust. I got the Boral attacks. I got the LTH long tube headers and X pipe. So it is significantly louder than what this car would come with stock. But even if you were to get headers and X pipe on an S550 with the active valve exhaust, you could change the tone and the pitch and the loudness or the quiet, with owning that. So quite a bit older technology, even though the car is still a modern car. The technology in this car is significantly outdated, and that's another thing to keep in mind too. If you're wanting to keep what you have or sell for a new 2022 5.0, or going with the Dark Horse. Also, like I said before in the past, if you go anything newer than a 2020, you're gonna have a lot of issues tuning those cars, and especially with the Dark Horses, those ECUs are locked. But I think within a year or two, hopefully, there'll be a way to get around that. But that's my guess. So I guess when comparing the technology and the drivability and what you have at your fingertips with a S197 compared to S550 / new S650, there's just more cons when comparing those things, but yet I still won't sell or even trade straight across for a dark horse even. Now, if I had a GT, S197 GT, now don't, anyone that has said S197 GT, I'm not trying to like hate on those because they're awesome cars, I love them. Maybe if I had something like that, yeah, I would probably trade across for a dark horse or sell for a dark horse, but the 6-speed manual Shelby GT500 is gone. I don't think that's coming back. Even if they do bring back the GT500 for the S650s, I don't think they're going to have that. Yeah, they might. They might have it in a manual. I hope so. But more than likely, probably not. That's another reason. You have a 6-speed, a manual transmission, a Shelby, over 700 horsepower on 93. It's a dying breed. And if I sold it a year or two down the road, I'm going to wish I didn't. And something like this is probably not going to find for sale that often, because try to find a GT500, a 13 or a 14 for sale. You can get you can get a 11 or 12, but not anything like what this has. Now, I'm sure if I drove this thing every day, because it's a 6-speed, it's a clutch, you know, all that kind of stuff, I don't know if I would appreciate what I have as much, because driving a 6-speed in a traffic stoplight, stop go, I should have gone the other way. It's rush hour. Every day at this time, this is always backed up. It would probably irritate me and piss me off. Just as you get older, like I said, you learn to appreciate those creature comforts of having heated seats and heated steering wheel and 10-speed automatic or 6-speed, whichever it is that you have. I would still hang on to it, but I think it would piss me off and irritate me a lot more if I had to drive a 6-speed manual every day, which is why James, I know that you're watching this, that's why he got rid of his GT500 for the 10-speed 2020, because he went with the 10-speed. His Shelby obviously came with a 6-speed manual transmission, stop and go traffic. He had issues with his knees, so I understand that. If I had to do that every day, I don't have knee issues now, or so far at least. But if I did, I'm sure I might have done the same thing. But I think these cars are, I wouldn't say priceless, but they're a dying breed. Manual, supercharged. You can tune them easily. You don't have any issues unlocking any kind of ECU with these things. These kind of cars aren't going to be around that much longer. So if anybody has these cars that are trying to think about selling them for S650, like a straight across trade or sell, I would rethink that. I'm an S197 person. I think these are the best looking platforms, best performing, not necessarily stock from the factory, but these are the best platform, best body style that Ford has put out, and it's a 6-speed manual. It's a GT500. These aren't going to be around. Everything else is going electric. You're going to have a lot of issues tuning them, and even though we're probably going to be able to unlock ECUs on the S650s, I think down the road they're going to have, the engineers and manufacturers are going to find ways to even prevent you from doing anything to those cars at all whatsoever. From swapping out the ECUs, or if they do and they find out about it, they'll make it illegal, maybe, I don't know. So I think what you have, if you have something like here, hang on to it. It's a dying breed, and it's everything else is going a different direction. At least Ford's hanging on to the V8 for as long as possible, but it's not going to be long, and a lot of these aren't going to be around. So I'm going to go ahead and flip a biatch and go the other way, because I'm already sick of this shit. And it looks like I'm clear.